All right, hello everyone. Today we are looking at your Chapter 10 Extra Practice worksheet. Okay. I'm going to do a few problems with you from each section, just working on those ones that I know are a little bit trickier, and I just want to make sure you guys remember them, and this is getting ready for your test next week. Okay. The first one I want you guys to look at is number 4. In this one, we have the square root of 72 divided by the square root of 50. Okay. Reminder, when we talked about our square roots in fraction form, we have to remember we can never have square roots on the bottom, and we're always looking to see if we can simplify or reduce. So right now I have very large numbers. I have 72 and 50. So the first thing I would hope everyone would think of is that these are both divisible by 2. They're both even numbers, so I'm going to divide them by 2. Okay. When I do that, I now have the square root of 36 divided by the square root of 25, and I hope everyone sees those are special numbers. We know the square root of 36 is 6, and we know the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so that problem looked intense, but once we reduced things, it got a lot easier. Okay, the next one I want you to look at is number 8. Okay, so for number 8, we have the square root of 3c squared and the square root of 27. Now again, I see that I have numbers that I can reduce. So again, that's the first thing I'm going to do. I see I have a 3 and 27, which I know those are both divisible by 3. When we do that on top here, those 3's are going to cancel, but I am still left with the square root of c squared. On bottom here, I have 27 divided by 3, which gives me the square root of 9. And again, I hope alarm bells are going off. We can take the square root of c squared. Reminder, when it's an even number, you just divide by 2 here. So 2 divided by 2 would be 1, or just c. So you could have c or c to the first. And on the bottom here, again, I can take the square root of 9, which is 3. Okay. So again, I wanted you guys to see this one, that we can reduce things first, and then we can see if we can square root. And I also wanted us to look at this one because this one had some letters in it. Okay. The next one I want everyone to look at is number 9. Now number 9, instead of dividing, we have multiplication. So we have 45 times 18. Okay. There's a couple ways we could do this one. We could start simplifying and making those numbers easier, or we could just multiply and then start simplifying. It's up to you guys. How I did this one is I multiplied them and then started simplifying. So I took 45 times 18. When we do that, we now have the square root of 810. I hope alarm bells are going off, because right now if I cover that 0, 81 here, that is a perfect square. So I'm going to split this between 81 times, if I have a 0 at the end here, 81 times 10. We know the square root of 81 is 9. We do not know the square root of 10. So the square root of 81 is 9, and we have the square root of 10. Okay. So that is that section. I think you guys can do the rest of them based on the ones that I helped you with. Okay. The next section, we're looking at 10-3. Okay. Reminder, if I'm going too fast, you can always pause and rewind. So the next one I'm going to have you guys look at is number 11. Okay. This is when we were adding and subtracting them. And reminder, we can only add or subtract if the number inside the square root are the same. So right now I see I have inside the radical, or the square root, I have 327. So those are not like terms, so I can't add them. So then the next thing we're looking to see is, can I simplify? So 300, it ends in a double 0, so I know the perfect square that goes in there is 100. And 100 times 3 gives me 300. Okay. Reminder, when we do this, we take the square root of 100, which is 10. We bring down the 3, that goes in front of this 10 here, and I'm going to bring down the square root of 3. We can continue this problem. We know 3 times 10 here, that's going to give us 30, and the square root of 3. Okay. We're going to work on this other one, 27. I can take out the perfect square 9. So the square root of 9 times the square root of 3. Again, I know the square root of 9. I got to bring down this number in front again, and I'm going to bring down the square root of 3. The 2 and the 3 here, that's going to become 6. Ooh, notice there's a plus sign in between here, so I'm going to have plus 6 and the square root of 3. Now they both have the square roots of 3, so now I can add these numbers in front. So now I'm going to have 36 square roots of 3. Reminder, those 3's in there and the square roots, we don't do anything with those. Okay, so that's how we did those problems. Sorry. The next one we are looking at is number 15. Now number 15, also very similar to the one that I did on the top there. When I look at number 15, I am multiplying those two. Okay, but there's something I want you guys to remember. So I'm taking the 5 and the 10, and we're going to multiply those. Okay, so we're going to have the square root of 50. And then I'm going to add my exponent. So I have x to the first, x to the 7th. So remember when we have it like this, we're going to add them. So I'm going to have x to the 8th. Okay, and now we're going to do what we've done on our other problems. We're looking to see, can we simplify? Can we reduce anything? So 50, not a perfect square, but I can split this between 25 and 2. Okay. The square root of 25, that's going to give us 5. I cannot square root 2, so that has to stay inside here. And x to the 8th, so reminder, I'm going to take this power, I'm going to divide by 2. So I'm going to get x to the 4th, and it's going to chill out front here. Because we were able to divide it, it means I have no more x's inside here. And that is our answer. Okay. One more problem I'm going to do in this section. I'm going to be honest with you guys. A lot of you struggled this on your quiz, for your Chapter 10 quiz. So if everybody looks at number 16, for number 16 I have the square root of 6, and in parentheses I have the square root of 6 minus 3. So reminder, when it's written like this, this means we are going to distribute. So I'm going to take the square root of 6, and I'm going to multiply it to both of these. Now these two, they are both in square roots, so I can multiply those. So when I do that, I have the square root of 36. Yes, we will be able to do something with that later. Hold on. And then I'm multiplying the square root of 6 to this negative 3. Those are not like terms, so we're not able to combine them inside the root. So I'm just going to have negative 3 square roots of 6. Okay. Now we want to simplify. Now we want to see if we can combine anything. I hope we all know the square root of 36. That will give us 6. So this is just going to become 6. I cannot square root this one. I can't simplify this one. So I'm just going to bring that down. Because they both are not like terms, they don't both have square root of 6. I can't do anything else. So this is my answer. So a lot of you struggled with that on your quiz for your Chapter 10 quiz. Okay. All right. The next one we're going to look at is in our next section. So this is what we've been working on this week. I'm going to look at 3 of them in this section. The first one we're going to work on is number 21. Okay, so number 21, I have 2x equals the square root of 14x minus 6. Okay, so first thing I notice is that my square root, it's on its own, so then I can square both sides right away. So I'm going to square both sides. Now on this side, I wanted to do this one for a reason. If we notice we have a 2 and an x, and we have to square everything. So that means this square is going to go to this 2 and this x. So what we have then is 4x squared. On this right side, the x and the, the square and the square root are going to cancel. So we're just left with 14x minus 6. Okay. We see we have an x squared and we have extra junk, so we know we're going to have to factor, and to be able to factor, I have to make this right side equal 0. So I'm going to minus the 14x, and I'm going to add over the 6 here. Okay. Reminder, we do not want to do anything with this x squared because we want to make sure that stays positive. So now I have 4x squared minus 14x plus 6 equals 0. Now, I don't know about you guys, but these numbers all look really large. I don't really want to factor that. That kind of seems scary to me. So something that I notice, I see they're all even numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to factor out a 2 right away. So I'm going to factor out a 2 out front. So when I do that, that 4x squared, that's going to become 2x squared. This is going to become negative 7x and plus 3. So what I see here now is my numbers are way easier and smaller to use. Okay, I'm going to scroll up because I'm running out of space. All right, so now we're going to regular factor this 2. That will just chill out there. Okay, and now we're regular factoring. Reminder, the only way to get to 2 is 1 and 2. So I'm going to have 1x or x and 2x. If you have those flipped around, that's fine. And the only way to get to 3 is 1 and 3. Okay, so I see that I have to get to 7 here. So the only way to get to 7 is if I take this 3 here and multiply it to this 2. So therefore the 3 is going to go here and the 1 is going to go here. Now based on my signs, I have a positive here and a negative here, so that means everything needs to be negative. If we do a quick check, I have 1 times 1, which is 1. I have 3 times 2, which is 6. And if I combine those, that gives us that negative 7. Okay. So now we are going to solve. So this x here, if we just show our work real quick, this x here is going to equal 3. This x here, when I solve it, I'm going to add the 1 and divide by 2. And when I do that, this x is going to equal positive 1/2. Okay. Now reminder, after we do this, we are going to go back to the beginning and we are going to check, okay? The reason why we're doing this, if you guys remember this week, I taught you about something called extraneous. So we're going to go back to our original problem. So I'm replacing all my x's with 3 for this one. Reminder, your calculator can do a lot of the work for you. So as you guys complain about it, your calculator is doing most of the work. Okay, so in this one, we're putting in 1/2. Okay. In here, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take oh my gosh, my board. I'm going to take 14 times 3, which is 42, and I'm going to subtract 6, so I have the square root of 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. On this side, I have 2 times 3, which is 6, so these two equal each other, so that is good. So this answer is a good answer. I'm going to check this one as well. 14 times 1/2, or half of 14 is 7. 7 minus 6 is 1, so I have the square root of 1, and the square root of 1 is 1. Over here I have half of 2, or 2 divided by 2, which gives me 1. So 1 equals 1, so this is a good answer. So both of these work. Neither of them are extraneous. Okay. The next one I want you guys to look at is number 22. Now this is what I taught you guys on Tuesday. On 22, I have a square root on both sides. Reminder, when we have a square root on both sides, that means our first step is we have to square both sides. When we square both sides, that means the square and the square roots are going to cancel. So all we're left with is 2x plus 5 equals 3x plus 1. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solve. I like these problems because there's a lot of right ways to do it. I'm going to get my x's together first. If you've already started solving this one and did it a different way, that's fine. So I'm going to minus 2x on both sides. I now have 5 equals x plus 1. I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and x is going to equal 4. Reminder, we're going to go back and check. We're going to check into our original problem here. So I'm going to have 2 times 4 plus 5, and we have 3 times 4 plus 1. Inside this square root, I have 2 times 4, which is 8. I have 8 plus 5, which is 13. So we have the square root of 13. And over here we have 3 times 4, which is 12, plus 1 is 13. And look at that, the square root of 13 equals the square root of 13. All right, the last one I'm going to do, and then I'm going to be done talking. I think it's the trickiest one, hence why I'm doing this one for you. The last one I want you guys to look at is number 26. Okay, I'm going to go on to another page. All right, so if everybody looks at number 26, we have the square root of x plus 7 equals x plus 1. Okay. Right now I see my square root on that left side is alone, so I'm going to square both sides. Now when I square this right side, this is why this one's tricky, I have to square this whole side. I hope some alarm bells are going off. I hope this looks like something you guys have done before. When I have x plus 1 like this in parentheses and I'm squaring it, it means I have 2 of them. Therefore, I need you to FOIL them. So we're going to FOIL, so I have x times x, which is x squared. I have 1 times x, so I have plus 1x. I have 1 times x, so I have 1x. And I have 1 times 1, which is 1. In the middle here, we can combine those, so I have x squared plus 2x plus 1. Do you guys see why I'm doing this problem for you? On the left side here, my x squared and my square and my square root are canceling, so all we're left with on this side is x plus 7. So now we see we have x squared with junk, so that means we know we're going to have to factor. Therefore, I have to get this the left side to equal 0. So I'm going to subtract the x from both sides, and I'm going to subtract the 7 from both sides. Okay. So now we have 0 equals x squared. This cancels down to just 1x or x, and this will cancel down to just negative 6. So now we can factor. So I'm going to have x and an x, and to get to negative 6 and add up to positive 1, we're going to have positive 3 and negative 2. Therefore, that means this x equals negative 3, and this x equals positive 2. Okay, so now we have to check for extraneous solutions. So I'm going to go back to my original problem, and we're going to plug in our 2 answers. So I'll plug in that negative 3, so I have negative 3 plus 7, negative 3 plus 1, and we'll have 2 plus 7, and 2 plus 1. On this one, I have negative 3 plus 7, which is 4. And the square root of 4 is 2. Over here I have negative 3 plus 1, which is negative 2. 2 does not equal negative 2, so that is bad. So that means this one is an extraneous solution. This one I have 2 plus 7, which is 9. The square root of 9 is 3. And on this side I have 2 plus 1, which is 3, which they equal, which is good. So therefore, this is a good answer. All right, so those are all the ones I'm going to help you with. I'm not going to write this down because I just want to see who's listening to me, because I know some people watch my video notes without listening. So those people that are listening, you can cross out number 27. I'll say that one more time because I know some people watch without listening. So please cross off number 27. Thank you. I will see you guys when I come back.